Welcome to Arista Wireless Training and the Fundamentals of Wi-Fi series. This is the Wi-Fi Technology Basics session. The evolution of wireless started about 20 years ago when each access point was managed individually. They would have a protocol between them to be able to hand off and do roaming between them. This was called autonomous APs. About 5 years later, about 15 years ago, is when controllers came about. So what this did is this took the management and moved everything into a controller, and the APs would talk to that controller for all of the configuration and firmware. 5 years after that, cloud was born, and now instead of talking to a controller, they were managed in the cloud, still having some of the features of the autonomous and the controller based. This was the latest and the most current form of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has different antennas that are available to use. So when we look at the Wi-Fi, we can see that there's directional and omnidirectional antennas. A directional antenna is really meant to aim the signal into a defined space where we can go with a parabolic grid and do a 3-mile range, perhaps, for a point-to-point or mesh, or if we want to just have something on the outside of the building out into a parking lot. Sometimes this is used in a warehouse to shoot down the aisles. Omnidirectional is going to be more of a round or donut shaped around the antenna. Kind of, if you have a higher signal, you're going to see it kind of goes outward more, but it's not really going to go up and down as much. And as we get to a lower dBi, we're going to have a little bit more of a round signal around that antenna. When we talk about antennas, we're going to be looking at the differences. So when we hear something like is a 2x2 or 3x3, what that's really talking about is how many transmit and receive antennas there are. So if we look at a handheld device, we're going to see it's a 1x1, meaning that there's one transmit, one receive. Now when it talks to a 4x4 access point here, it's only going to be using one of them. 2x2 will be able to utilize two of those transmit and receive and spatial streams. And likewise, as we go up along here, we'll be able to use all the antennas when we have a 4x4. So if you have 4x4 today in a technology that doesn't support more than one device on there, you're just not benefiting from the use of the 1x1. Now, just as Token Ring is not the Ethernet, neither is Wi-Fi. What that means is when you're transmitting in one frequency or one protocol, you have to translate into another. And that's where a bridge or a router is needed to convert the packets. So this shows the Ethernet encapsulation and then the Ethernet decapsulation. Wi-Fi security is WEP, WPA, WPA2, and WPA3. This chart shows the release date from back in 1997 up until 2018 when WPA3 came out. It also shows the encryption and decryption we have for personal versus enterprise, as well as the key length and integrity and pre-shared key. So this is important to understand that WEP is vulnerable, so is WPA and WPA2, as those have all been cracked. WPA3 is invulnerable at this time and is the standard that most places are starting to move to. This was quick little training on some of the Wi-Fi technologies, and we'll get deeper into some of these subjects in an upcoming module.